In this video, I'm going to show you some of the simple rendering capabilities of Podium. This will be just a quick overview of how to render in Podium and how to change the settings. Remember that Podium is an add-on or a plugin to SketchUp. So what that means is it does not come with the standard SketchUp package. You have to buy that separately and add it on. To turn on the Podium toolbars, you would go to View, Toolbars, and then make sure that Podium is selected. This is after purchasing Podium, and then you would hit Close. Here we can see the Podium toolbar has appeared up here in the upper right-hand corner. An important first step in creating your Podium rendering is to make sure that you turn shadows on. So shadows, you can see, will help your rendering look more realistic. It will show light reflection and shadow under furniture pieces and throughout the room. To turn shadows on, you would go to View and then click Shadows. So watch what happens when I uncheck shadows. You can see that the shadows have disappeared. So you would always want to make sure shadows are on. Once you set your shadows, then you can right-click and hit Update your scene. Now sometimes you will need to make some adjustments to your shadows, and I'll show you how to do that. There are a few ways that you can make those adjustments to your shadows. You can turn on the toolbar for shadows, so go to View, Toolbars, and make sure that shadows are selected. And you can see the shadow toolbar appeared up here. So then I would close this menu. Now you can adjust the shadows up here at the top. JF March stands for January, February, March. So you can change the time of year for the shadows. So watch what happens as I change the time of year. You can also adjust the time of day. So you can see that how the shadows move throughout the space depending on the time of day will vary. Once you have checked your shadows and they're exactly how you want them to be, then you would right-click and hit Update on your scene. Now I've already created lighting and reflection in this rendering, and I'll show you how to add lighting and reflection in another video. But for this video, I want to show you how to quickly do a rendering of your space and the capabilities and the end product of a Podium rendering. So to render your space, you're going to click the Render button right here. You can also go to Extensions, Podium, and Render to render your interior image. So I'm going to click Render. Now you can see that it's analyzing my image right now, and this may take, for a small image like this, it may take 30 seconds. For a larger image, it may take up to 20 minutes. So just be prepared that when you go to do your final rendering that it may take some time. Once it goes through the rendering process, it will freeze and it will show you that your rendering is done when it says total time, and you can see that this rendering took 28.6 seconds to render. So then I would double click on that image, and now you can see the end product. You can see what my final Podium rendering will look like. And you'll notice that many of the black lines that we see in SketchUp, so you can see that around the crown molding, you can see all of the lines that were used to draw this sofa, those lines have disappeared, and we would not see those in real life. So the Podium rendering is meant to make it look more realistic. And we can also see the shadow, and you can see the lighting that I added to the lamp there as well. So that quickly just showed you the end result of a Podium rendering. Now I want to show you how to change a few settings to make your renderings when you're just viewing the space and you want to make sure that everything is turning out correctly. You can render quickly, and then when you're ready to put your final rendering on a board, that you get the best quality image. So if you click on the options icon right here, and within the options icon you can change the default settings for the rendering. So when I am just doing a quick rendering, I'm checking my lighting, my shadow, my reflection, I always have it set at default because that's going to render the quickest. Now when I go to add my final rendering onto my presentation board, I may move to one of these other settings. So I may move to an exterior fine or high, or an interior bright, fine, or high, and that will take a little bit longer to render, but it will be a very high quality image. There are other settings that I may change, or I may change to a JPEG image, and that can be easily inserted into a PowerPoint or InDesign presentation. And then the other thing that I will change is where I save my file. So this is really important because Podium will save your file somewhere. So it will always go and render and then save that image. But sometimes it's hard to find where that image is saved. So here you can customize, and so you can create a folder there. Every time you do a Podium rendering, it will save to that same folder so that you know exactly where to find it. One more thing that I do want to mention about these settings up here is that sometimes the interior bright fine renderings are too bright. So I may recommend that you switch to an exterior fine or an interior fine so that you don't have this very bright image. After you've fixed all of your settings, you have the JPEG selected and you've customized where you're saving your file, you just hit save. And then every time you go to render, it will reflect those settings that you just set. So that ends this short video on how to quickly do a rendering. The next video I will show you will focus on adding lighting and reflection within your space.